The Flower and Garden Festival is finally here. We're going to talk about that. Fantasy Springs in Tokyo. Why did they get all the good stuff? We'll take a look at what's coming there. And are we going to see AI in Disney parks? All that and more tonight on ParksCenter. Happy Sunday night. Welcome to ParksCenter for March 3rd, 2024. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you, guys. Thank you, as always, for being with us. We appreciate you. Please make sure to subscribe right now to WDWNT TV if you have not already. And please make sure to give us a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. Tonight, as always, we have put together the best people that we could get our hands on. Starting with Allison. How are you?
Doing well. Good evening, everyone.
Kamila?
Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday.
And OMG, it's Shannon.
Hello, everybody. Is everyone excited to start singing Spike the Bee? When I find myself at flower and garden.
Okay, no. Okay, we're good. For
I liked it.
I know. I just don't want us to get. It's so good. I don't want us to get demonetized. So that's why I wanted to make sure we stopped before it got too far. But yeah, we'll do a lot. We'll let her sing the whole thing in the post show. Anyway, thank you guys for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. One of the things that we have not talked enough about, but it is finally here, is the Flower and Garden Festival. Obviously, we are partial to the Festival of the Arts in a lot of ways, but Flower and Garden is a festival. It's one of the four. Some of us like it a lot. Some of us are smitten with it. This is some of the stuff that they've rolled out this week with Flower and Garden. This will run through the end of May. They are doing the Spike the Bee, there you go, exploration scavenger hunt, and then also there's a lot of merch, which I'm sure Allison will want to talk about, and then the playgrounds. Honestly, that was one of the first things that I loved about Flower and Garden, were these little pocket playgrounds that they used to put together, and I think they used to have a bunch more of them. It feels like there were like 3 or 4 sometimes that were there. And Allison, I don't know if you've ever taken your daughter to Flower and Garden to play in any of these, but I mean, I assume as a mom you're grateful for a little place for them to blow off some steam, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know all of the places, like when we go to Tom Sawyer Island to go use the playground sometimes, because when you have small kids, you can't, and you spend all day like, no, you have to stand in this line, and please don't touch the people around you, and like, please sit in your chair at meals. It's really nice to have a spot. And Epcot used to have those splash pads everywhere, basically, and now we have the one big one. And this is exactly what you need. There's that one playground over by Test Track, but like this really helps, especially in a park that is as large as Epcot. There's a lot of walking, which you don't really notice unless you're there with somebody with very little legs. And it's really nice to have this break it up. We went last year, and that helped a lot on that park day, especially when it's like you've been in the parks 3 days in a row and they're little people. Like, this stuff is great.
Yeah, I mean, we took our kids when they were little, and it was like, okay, ooh, good. We're going to sit here in these Adirondack chairs. You guys work out some of what you've got going on, and then we'll take you to the next thing, or to a restaurant to sit down for a while. There used to be a lot more of that. Obviously, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground existed at Hollywood Studios. Kids, look it up. There was also Mickey's Toontown Fair. That had a little climbing place inside. A lot of those things have gone away. I always assumed that it had something to do with insurance. I don't know what the reason is.
There's more now there. The Dumbo has that whole area, it's indoors,
like the play zone,
which is amazing. So yeah, stuff has gone away, but it's been replaced by stuff, but some of it's hidden.
Yeah. I think that there could never be enough of this kind of stuff, and it feels like it's so special when they pop up and there's something there to do. Kamila, let me ask you about this. When they do things like the Garden Graze, where they make you go around and take your little passport and go to every booth, do you ever fall for that? I fall for that every single time, because the first time they put a stamp in, I'm like, well, now I got to get them all. And then now we have the Garden Graze, which includes some seeds, which I don't need, and a cup, which I don't need. And, but I'll probably spend $30 trying to get it. Thoughts?
It's not for me, because it's just, I don't know. I don't struggle with that, but I will say, I understand why someone would. I just think for me, like, I just like to get my little festival brochure, figure out what I'm actually interested in, and then hit those places up. So it's not like a pop by everything kind of situation, or even like it needs to be based on what I actually want to do. But I do think, that's kind of what's fun about these festivals. And I saw where they have like the extraganda or whatever they're calling it, like, as well, which I just love, they like Easter and how it can tie into this festival, and just the colors, the flowers, like what is not to like. And then what they're doing with living with the land. I usually go to the parks around this time of year during the flower and garden, and I don't remember so much being done to kind of retheme living with the land to match kind of the overall theme of the festival. So there's a lot that's going on. The Figment topiary, so cute.
Yeah. The one that they say has been birthed by the center planner. Yeah. Speaking of topiaries, like we tracked this one down as soon as it came up, the Guardians of the Galaxy, where Groot is playing music. I think this is awesome that they've added some other element. It's not just a topiary. It's a topiary that has an experience when you walk up to it, and it's playing music very similar to the way they had the statues when they did the 50th anniversary, and those statues still exist there. But I'm going to throw this one to you, Shannon, before we move on, is what Kamila just talked about, is retheming living with the land for the holidays is something like, again, I've talked about in the show. I used to work on Listen to the Land. Again, kids, look it up. It was a long, long time ago. But more recently, they've done things like, at the holidays with the snowmen and the lights in the tunnels. And I think they tried to do something like this a little bit before, where they set up like mini like race car tracks that looked like test track and things like that. But these are over the top what they've added this time. And I wonder, is this something, do you think, that Imagineering is doing? Do you think this is something that the folks at the botanists are doing? What are your thoughts on this? Does this make you want to go? That's right? Botanists? Am I right on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then, sure.
Herbologists.
Okay. All of those people. What do you think, Shannon?
I don't know who's doing it, but where is the job application? Because I'm obsessed with this. I want to do it. And I love that not only are they theming these little beautiful garden areas, they're starting to do like little signs also along the way. And it's tying into the actual food booths that you see around Epcot. I haven't even seen that Alice in Wonderland one, but it's amazing. And honestly, like, secretly, this gives me hope that the land has many, many more years left, because it's one of my favorite attractions. So I hope they continue doing it. I love it, and it makes it a new experience now every time you go.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's one of those things, I've always said, you add one little thing to something, I'm going to get back on it and see how it's changed, whether it's adding Coco to the Mickey's PhilharMagic, or whether you're adding a scene to Star Tours, which hasn't seemingly happened in 900 years, or whether you're, changing just something small in those greenhouses. It gives it a little bit more rideability or re-rideability. So I'm excited that it's happening. The last time I was there, they were starting to put those things in there. So the well out of context and the table empty out of context made very little sense, but I knew something cool was coming. But the fact that they've redone these is very cool. I just wonder, like, if it was something, like there's a rumor that the Haunted Mansion has that hidden Mickey on the table in the ballroom, and that cast members did that, not Imagineers, and that it gets moved back. And so I wonder if that's this kind of thing where somebody just was like, oh, let me plus this out a little bit. And then somebody said, people seem to like that. Let's do it some more. And again, to your point, I hope they do it for a long time to come. So let's move on to the next topic, which is a lot of changes that we're seeing in the 2025 packages that just went on sale last week for Walt Disney World. So these are when you're staying on property, you get a hotel room, you buy a vacation package, and Kamila, buckle up, this is coming to you first. But they put these on sale last week, and there are some things that they've announced that are a little bit different this time. One of them is cancellation policy is a little bit different. You used to be able to, within 5 days, cancel your reservation. Now, for some reason, they've said 8 days seems like a better idea. Somebody ran the numbers, and of course, as I've always talked about, the house always wins. Somebody decided that if we move it from 5 to 8, we can make just a little bit of money somehow. That was one of the changes that happened. And then another thing is that they're saying that they're going to keep doing the extended evening hours, and then also the ability to come into the parks early. Kamila, honestly, if that perk went away, I feel like there would be rioting in the streets, maybe? What do you know about these?
I definitely do feel like a lot of people take advantage of the early morning hours, and then also the evening hours for deluxe guests. So, I'm glad to see that those will continue. Um, the cancellation policy change, that one doesn't surprise me and doesn't bother me too much. I think they're just trying to figure out inventory a little better. And I don't think people realize Disney definitely oversells rooms from time to time. So sometimes when you get that upgrade of, hey, we'd like to move you to a new resort that's amazingly, nicer, it's usually because they've oversold. And all hotels do this. They're trying to make calculations about how many people they think will cancel at the last minute, and they're trying to not have too much inventory that's going unused. So it's an interesting game, but I think this just gives them a little more breathing room and hopefully cuts down, honestly, on someone thinking that they're going to check into Port Orleans. They get to Port Orleans and then suddenly they're like, oh, just kidding, we don't have a room for you. And that happens a lot more than people realize. And it's not fun when you have to deal with it, as a travel agent or as a client. And then the water park perks, for like the check-in, check-out day. I'll be honest, I kind of don't get that one. I think obviously,
Good.
I think it's great. I just, is it to like remind people that they exist? Like I kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. See. Yeah. You play the hand a little bit early on that. I was coming to that one next, and I do think that's no. That's where we're going next. I think it's worth the discussion. Is that this is a thing that they threw out there, and it's like, wow, you get into the water park for free. And then I saw somebody breaking this down and going, okay, it's the day that you get there, you get in for free. You have to check. You can't check in your hotel till what, 3:00, and then you're going to have the park is only open till 5:00. So I guess you take your suitcase, drop it off at the hotel, then head on over to the water park and change in the bathroom, and then go into the, like, it doesn't seem like it's it doesn't seem like it's a beautiful gift that they're giving. It should be a ticket to use the water park anytime you want during your trip. That feels like it would be more fair. But then there's the other thing we talked about with them switching these water parks all the time, is that since COVID, neither of these water parks have been open at the same time. So let me go to Allison on this one, because I see you nodding your head a lot. Do you think that this is a valuable perk?
Well, first, I don't think that they want to give you this perk anytime during your stay, because they know that you're not going to spend as much money at the water park as you would anywhere else on property. You're going to spend a whole lot more in the parks or even at Disney Springs. And so this is just something that I think Camila hit the nail on the head. This is an advertising technique. People forget there are water parks at Disney, especially in the middle of the summer. People get the pass for it, and like a lot of locals go, so they don't have problems filling the parks in the summer, but in these like weird off times they sort of do. And I think that's just like, oh yeah, we should make use of that. And unless you're like a short drive away and doing a staycation and you're from like Central Florida, like it's tough. You'd have to be taking the 4 a.m. airplane to get there at a reasonable time to really enjoy it on your check-in day. So it just seems like a free advertising, and also some kind of incentive. People see it like, oh, maybe I should book my room, and they want to fill that inventory. That a lot of this seems designed around like getting people to stay on property and make sure that they can manage the booking of the hotels.
And don't get me wrong, it's better than a punch in the face. And also, if you can make it work on your vacation, you can certainly maybe, again, drop your stuff off at the hotel, get to the water park and enjoy some of the day on them. And then maybe through word of mouth, you tell people about it. I feel like this is something that they used to throw in with vacation packages anyway, to try to promote the parks and the water parks. It's just that I look at these parks, the main 4 theme parks, bursting at the seams, and then they've got these 2 world-class water parks that they won't keep open at the same time. I saw Rosita in the chat joking water shortage. No, I don't think it's a water shortage. I think they just don't want to pay the people and the operating expense to open them both at the same time. Apparently there's not the demand for it. But again, the parks are bursting at the seams. It would seem like they'd find another way, maybe make a new attraction at each of these or something that would drive people into those. So, Shannon, do you have a history, a thought, a love of water parks you want to throw in here?
I do. I have a love for Typhoon Lagoon, honestly. No shade to Blizzard Beach, but I believe we mentioned this on one of our recent episodes where, are they doing one park at a time because attendance is low? And is this a way for them to drum up business again at the water parks? Now, I also wonder if part of this is the fact that, over the last few years, I feel like there have been shortages with housekeeping, and it's become more far and few between that your room is ready before check-in. So I wonder if this is a way to persuade people, no, we know you're getting to Disney as early as you possibly can. Most people do. I know I like to take the first flight out. So is this a way to entice people to go away until, it's really true check-in time and then come back in your room and housekeeping will be ready? I don't know. Just my theory.
And so can I just say, I completely agree with Shannon. That was the other thing that I was going to say, and I was going to wait and see if anyone else had that thought also. But I definitely think Disney has been struggling with keeping up. And I think previous years, they had kind of the expectation of, I'm going to let you know what time I'm going to arrive. And Disney would really try to accommodate and get you into the room as early as possible. So if you said you were going to be in at 7 a.m. on check-in day, they were going to try to have your room ready. And I just think now they're really trying to move away from that. One, because their policy is technically, check-in is not until a much later time. And so they're trying to kind of reconfigure how people think about check-in day and don't get so upset when their room is not ready until the actual check-in time. But I also think they just can't keep up with that at all. And if you even think about check-out day, they're banging on your door at 7, 8 a.m. When are you leaving? Are you still here? That kind of thing. And so I also think it's an incentive to say, oh, well, your room's not ready yet, but be sure to go check out one of our water parks. And this is something that Universal hotels also do. And Universal, I think, is much more notoriously known for you're not getting into your room usually until check-in. And so you'll go to the desk and you'll be like, is my room ready yet? They'll be like, no. And they'll be like, but please go check out our pools. They're available to you on check-in day. And it's like, no, I don't have any of my stuff for that. And I don't want to do that. I want to get to my room. But I really think this is also about just trying to be able to say look, your room's not going to be ready until the more true check-in time, and to change that expectation that it'll be ready much earlier.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that's the part that I'm having a problem with is it's the most inconvenient day for you as the guest. It works out perfectly for Disney. It's almost like one of those things where, they running a special at 7:55 if your store closes at 8. I mean, it closes. They shut them down at 5, and if you are checking in at 4, 3, or whichever, then once you check in, you have a very you're playing beat the clock. What a great thing to do on your vacation when you already have to get up at 6:55 for a virtual queue. Love it. So again, better than punch in the face. I like the concept of it. I just wish they would give that to you for any time during your trip, which would also, again, alleviate the problem of there being so many people in the park. If you go, you know what, it's a hot one. I have this extra day I can use at a water park. Let me go do that with the family, and then maybe that would, take some of the heat off of, so to speak, the parks. But to Allison's point, you can't spend as much money at Typhoon Lagoon unless you buy that big pail of ice cream. Maybe, I don't know, or a lot of beer. I have no idea. But again, there's probably a lot less opportunity to spend money. Speaking of money, last week we had a great conversation about the fact that there is a there was a survey about that Walt Disney World was the biggest tourist trap. They said, this is again casino.org, very good source, but they said it was the biggest tourist trap amongst people they surveyed, and again, we talked a little bit about what that means, and we were like, well, do you get enough bang for your buck? And then Disney must have said, maybe we haven't raised the prices high enough. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make people pay more for the tickets to get into the parks. And so they announced this week that a ticket is going to be more for you. They're running about $10 each of an increase. But when you look at a Magic Kingdom park ticket starting at $134, and that's starting at. And it's always like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. But then when you look at the calendar, you go, oh, but I want to go in June. That's going to be a lot more. Again, the prices, I get that inflation happens, but sometimes it feels like Disney just pushes and pushes and pushes. And yet, none of us on here are saying no. When I see these price hikes, and Kamila, I'll go to you about this one. When I see these price hikes, the first thing I think is, thank goodness I'm an AP. And then I start doing the math and go, okay, yep, I've cleared my my AP money for the year, so now everything else, it's like I'm going in for free.
It's free.
Exactly, right? That math works.
It's interesting because the ticket price increases, I think, are expected. They're never appreciated, and it really does continue to price people out. Or maybe for some people it's forcing them to go less often, or maybe where you used to buy a park hopper, now you're just doing a base day ticket and trying to figure out, well, which park will we actually visit, or instead of doing 4 parks you do 2 parks. Like, it does force people to make decisions. And do I think Disney cares about that? No. But it's also interesting to me when you compare the ticket prices of like concerts. And concerts are notoriously different because usually, you're just buying it for yourself. You're not, buying it for a bunch of people. So it's different. But like, there are other experiences, going to see a show on Broadway or anything like that, where the ticket prices are comparable, if not more, and you're not getting what you get at Disney. So I say that to say my concern actually is, I could see a world where these prices continue to go quite a bit higher and we get much closer to $250 per person, being kind of like the average. So it's tough, but they're never appreciated.
Well, again, I don't. The day when I look up and I can see $200 on that board at Transportation and Ticket Center as I'm walking in, I mean, I feel like they got to find some way not to ever hit that. Like, maybe it's $199.99 for a ticket starting price, but just seeing $2 is just, $200 is just like, for a family of 4, that's $800. And I get what you're saying. And I brought up that same thing last week when we were talking about this tourist trap, specifically about U2 at the Sphere. That's an experience that is not just one night, but it's multiple nights. I don't think Super Bowl counts because there's only been 50 of them, right? So so at the same time, the thing with U2, it's multiple nights, but it was like $800 to barely be able to tell that it's Bono on stage for 3 hours, maybe. So I definitely get that. It seems to me to be a value. But then when you have to add on things like Genie Plus, or we didn't stay at a hotel, so we have to pay for parking, or whatever the case may be. It's a lot. And so every time one of these things comes up, we've talked about in the past when they increase food across the board or they increase the tickets, that it's getting harder and harder for people to be able to afford this trip. And then like we talked about last week too, is it's getting more difficult for people to understand how to take a Disney trip because they don't understand what the difference is between Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, paid Lightning Lane, park reservations, 1-day ticket, 1-day park hopper ticket, 4-day, 1-day park ticket. Like, it's so much. And so, we're in the bubble. We understand it. We don't love it. We understand it, but it can be really difficult for that. So we'll move on from this one to talk about something that came up this week. Now, there's a battle for the board. There are all these companies that are trying to get their board, their people on the board of directors for Disney. And so Blackwells was one that was in the news and said that they have suggestions. And one of them is talking about Disney is not going to be a technology company until they start acting like a technology company. And I'm like, okay, it depends on what you're talking about. If we're talking about pushing the boundaries of some of the Imagineering that they do and things like that, they're there. If we're talking about the My Disney Experience app, they're not there. So, I mean, it's so the article that we have on our site was talking about the fact that they want to use AI to create new Disney park features and bring characters to life, which honestly, on the one hand, it scares me because I saw that like that virtual character meet and greet they did at Pop Century where like, you know, you stand in front of the thing and it looks like Pluto and the gang are with you. Yeah, that's the same as the, you know, a hug from Pluto. But also there's some of the stuff they've talked about here about like managing your park day. That already exists. So it seems like these folks didn't really do their homework in what they were talking about because Genie exists. Nobody wants to use it because it's going to send you to places you don't want to go. But Genie already exists to try to plan out your day. So, you know, again, I think there's a weird frontier about AI in general, artificial intelligence, whether it's making our lives easier or replacing things. And so one of the things that we have as Disney fans is we say that Universal has too many screens. And I mean, a lot of AI is going to require more screens, whether it's virtual reality, augmented reality, etc. So, Allison, I'm going to throw this one at you. What do you think about the suggestion that Disney is not a technology company or not acting like a technology company? And what would you think about them trying to introduce AI more into the parks?
It's not a tech company as we understand tech companies like in Silicon Valley, which is why they can't make a functioning app that we all like. But yes, like they are an innovative company and they always have been. They are not a company where like, I'm sorry, this whole thing is like a dystopian nightmare and I feel like I made it up. Like this is not like, this feels like a fake headline. It doesn't feel like a thing that's real. But it is like, this is the reality of bringing in like private equity to a like creative company. Like here, like, sure, we'll bring our ideas to like put this in some kind of like machine, spit it out, regurgitate it, and give it to people. The thing about Disney is like the most surprising stuff is the stuff that blows your mind, not the stuff that would, if you like put in, okay, here's the stuff everyone likes and AI spits out what that is. Like Pandora, who would have thought that would have worked at all? Like the whole reason that is successful is because of like human artists. And that's how you get innovation. And that's how you get things that push the boundaries. The whole thing makes absolutely no sense and will like completely ruin the industry. And it's so funny because you rarely have like Abigail Disney on the same side as like as Bob Iger being like, no, this is absolutely not right for the company, and this is just like an example of what it would be for the parks. Like, we know this feels fake because it's such a bad idea.
Well, when you're talking dystopian, I don't know if you've ever read the Kingdom Keepers books, but the Kingdom Keepers books were written by Ridley Pearson, who was a horror writer, who was writing about these kids get digitized basically into being guides around the parks. And then somehow they're connected to the parks and their digitized versions. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but it's also you'll never look at the attractions the same way again. There's a part where it's a small world, all the dolls come after you, and then in Winnie the Pooh, it floods to the top. You know, that's definitely a story you want to read the kids. Yeah, so Kingdom Keepers, look it up. But this says the video suggests new AI technology like ChatGPT. Wow. We're getting on that train already. It's so early. We've only been talking about ChatGPT for what, years? With Disney characters and AI assistants to navigate park visits. AI assistants. And again, I was thinking, you know, Genie is already that, but also these kids from the Kingdom Keepers and their weird digital ghosts. Shannon, do you have thoughts on this topic?
Not exactly. I just think Disney likes control. And when it comes specifically to this idea of like enhancing character meet and greets, kind of like that thing they had at the All Stars, I think with AI, it's just a little too young to really understand the consequences of it. And I know that Disney, the character handlers have all these rules, right? Like a character can never sign a newspaper or be taking a picture in front of something in particular. And so I think Disney would have a really hard time folding AI into the mix for at least a little while.
Okay. Kamila, anything before we move on?
I will just quickly say, I think pretty much every company right now is trying to figure out how to use AI, how to integrate it. They absolutely have pressure from investors, shareholders. It's what the expectation is that you'll be using it. And so the question is, how can you use it efficiently and in a way that helps to reduce cost or maybe enhance experience? But I think for pretty much every major company out there, AI is the question of, how are you going to adopt it? How are you going to use it? But also, and maybe just as scarily, how are you going to pay for it? Because this is very expensive technology. And without a doubt, some of the layoffs we've seen in the industry are trying to shore up additional funds for what can be some very expensive technology to incorporate.
Yeah. If they're wanting to weave this into Chuck E. Cheese, I'm all for it. But that's because we're paying Chuck E. Cheese prices. If you're doing it at Disney World, I mean, it better be top shelf. I saw Todd in chat say, let's get MDA running 95% functioning, and then let's talk about, making them a technology, leader in technology. So also, I was reading Fire Chief 66 said, how worse can AI get? Genie already recommends I eat at Tony's Town Square and spend my day riding the carousel, which is what, when they first announced that's the first thing I thought was, this is like, it was announced at D23 before we knew Genie Plus and Lightning Lane was a thing. They announced Genie. And when they announced that, the first thing I thought was, good, send people who don't know what they're doing to the film festival at Epcot, or send them to Turtle Talk with Crush or something I'm not going to. That's great. Let's do that. Let's send them there. And then the people who know what they're looking for can have a straightaway. But I don't want people, to get pushed into like a bad experience at Disney either, because then they tell friends and people stop going, and then the prices have to triple instead of just, double. It would be a thing. So, Shannon, I have a super chat. Are you ready for a super chat?
I'm always ready.
Get it. All right. So we have our first super chat of the night. Thank you to our good friend Jungle Cruiser, who has given us a super chat. Let me see if I can bring it up here. He says, I would pay $200 a day to experience the Kingdom Keeper overlays with the parks. That sounds awesome. Could we get this for Disneyland Forward? I got to tell you, again, reading those books, I tried to read them to my son, and then just was like, okay, this is probably too much to read to a kid before they go to bed. So let me just read it on my own. I'm reading, a teen novel or whatever on my own. So, but they're well written. But again, it's written by a guy who has written horror, who had permission from Disney to write things about this. And I thought to myself, there should be an overlay. There should be some kind of like secret thing. Like there's supposed to be that you're supposed to be able to, like, in the story, look up at the sun in It's a Small World, and it gives you some sort of Illuminati clue if you're wearing 3D glasses. And I thought, how hard? How hard is that to do for the people who wrote those books? You should do that. That would be a great thing to do, but that would cost money. So again, almost everything we were talking about tonight is money. Speaking of money, the Disney Vacation Club. If you don't know about the Disney Vacation Club, now there's a place you can go to find out everything you need to know without even going into the parks. You just swing by Disney Springs, and there's a welcome center called the Gateway to Discovery. So it looks like maybe Disney had an open storefront, and they said, hey, why don't we just stick some Disney Vacation Club in here? But you can see that they've got a big globe in there, so they mean business. Honestly, a lot of this looks like, I know that Shannon is a big fan of the Adventures by Disney. I think you're going to be the host of Adventures by Disney today, right? That's going to be your calling? Yeah. Is that what it's going to be? Yeah. I mean, it looks like a lot of this stuff is kind of to broaden the horizons of people, to have them understand that Disney Vacation Club is more than just a timeshare at Disney. It's, a vacation experience, if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right. Is that right?
Yeah, and I've said before, on the Adventures by Disney trips I have taken, I was surprised that most of the people on the tour with me used their DVC points for these trips, and they most of them even said that they exclusively use their DVC points for trips like this and not for going to the parks. So, I always feel so bad for the DVC kiosks that you see around the park. They're mostly there for pin trading, I think, at the end of the day. But this one looks cute, and I wish them the best.
Wish them the best. It's going to be a very quiet place for people who maybe they put people in there who just don't like loud noises and they put them in there. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this preview center is it's got the model of Disney's Riviera Resort. What? Why wouldn't you have a model of, I don't know, the Polynesian building that you're building right now to be able to talk about that instead of having the model of the Riviera in there? Or, I don't know, the cabins maybe. So I feel like they're missing some opportunities there. It almost looks like it was done in a rush to put some stuff together. Maybe not. But the other thing that came up during this, before I go to Allison about this, is that that they've said this will not be the home. The second story to this preview center will not be the home to the previously teased member lounge. And it never occurred to me that that this member lounge that they're talking about would actually be anywhere outside of a park. Like, it seemed like to me, it would be in a park. Like, maybe like a Club 33 type of thing that they'd have it in. The one that exists now at Epcot is over top of the Journey into Imagination with Figment. It was originally the why am I drawing a blank? The ImageWorks. And so they have it upstairs. It's a neat little place there. We don't know if the new one is going to make this one close, but it never occurred to me that it might be outside the parks. I know that there's Top of the World at Bay Lake Tower, but Allison, would you swing by if you were at Disney Springs and take a look at what the Disney Vacation Club has to offer you and your family?
Nope. Those poor people. Like, it's just too uncomfortable, and then you have to extricate yourself, and they don't want to give you the hard sell because they can't, because it's Disney, but it's still a timeshare, and it's just too awkward. My question, the question for you, Rob, was this had been a previously teased lounge. I thought they meant previously teased for Disney Springs, and I was not aware that there would be one built there. And I was like, wait, who wants one there? Why would you need one at Disney Springs? And it's my question for you, because you're actually a DVC member, and I am not. Would you use it? Would it ever
at Disney Springs?
Is there an occasion you think that it would make sense to go and
Yeah, actually, if it's my first day, I can't check into my hotel yet, but I need to change for Typhoon Lagoon, then I may be able to use their bathrooms there to change into my swimsuit so I can head on over and take advantage of my free ticket. That would be the only reason. I mean, it's not like an outlet mall where you need you need a place to rest for a while. If you're done shopping at Disney Springs, leave. That's really, I feel like most people just go there to eat or something like that. But I don't know why. Again, I feel like it should be in a park, because that is when you want to take a minute, go and get away from it, recharge yourself, recharge your cell phone, get something from the Coke Freestyle machine. That seems like it should be in the parks, just like it is in Disneyland at the I almost hate to say this because it's in it used to be Innoventions, and I know that Kamila has real feelings about that building and thinks it should be other things. But the Starlight Lounge that's there is wonderful, and it looks like it's permanent, and they're not saying it's there for a limited amount of time. But I think the reasoning for it is they've got new DVC property to sell at Disneyland, and so they need a place to talk about that a little bit. On your way to the lounge, there are all these posters for Disney Cruise Line and Adventures by Disney that you have to walk by in order to get to your free soda and bag of pretzels. So yeah, I feel like it should be in one of the parks. But Shannon, are you ready? Woo! See, it's worth it. Thank you guys for making this happen. This is really what it's all about. So we have another super chat from CK Barry. Disney has a product that relies on C channels like yours and multi others that they devote entire episodes to help people understand it. Worth reminding, the most guests don't deep dive into YouTube, and they shouldn't have to. That's a good point. Again, what we were talking about with you really need to study and know what you're talking about to go on a Disney trip. You either have to talk to a friend, and as a matter of fact, I had a friend recently, and I think anybody who is watching this has probably had a friend who goes, hey, you like Disney a lot. Can I pick your brain? Maybe buy you lunch or something, and can we talk about it a little bit? And what would you like? Tell me what would be best for me. And I recently had that with a friend of mine who bought park maps online on eBay. And I thought, dude, you should have hit me up. I have a lot of park maps. But he was like, he bought them on eBay. And then I thought, that's a good idea. And then he like met me with the park maps and then was talking to me about like, what should we do? And I understand Lightning Lane, but I don't understand Lightning Lane. And, so we talked through all of it. But yes, CK Barry, thank you so much for the super chat. And you are absolutely correct. It's one of those things that like, it really needs to be easier for people to understand it because again, sandals. I spend X amount of dollars and then you're just going to tell me, where to go get my free drinks and where to, do everything else. It's all encompassing. That's the way Disney should be. But what you need to do is if you don't know what you're doing, talk to a travel agent because, it's free for you. And then Disney has to pay a little bit on that one. So, anyway, we miss Allison greatly. We hope that she is, there she is. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next one, which is Tiana Watch. This is one of those things that I said in the past, we're going to end up talking about it all the way up until it opens up. And, the real reason to talk about Tiana right now is that Josh D'Amaro, oh my gosh, the man, the myth, the legend was in the Magic Kingdom. And I just thought, wow, that would have been awesome to be there and hanging out with Josh in front of what will be the Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Here's a picture just in case you don't know. I mean, like the fit, man, he is top to bottom. Look at that guy. So apparently, as the stockholders or the next, the investors call is coming up, they're going to have a little video talk about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and we're thinking that they're going to announce the date. And in listening to Tom, he thinks that it's going to be sooner than we think, which to me would say Memorial Day weekend, because that's kind of when Guardians opened up, and so that would be a good time for that to open up. We know summer of 2024 it's going to open up, but we don't in Florida. the one in California, I don't know, Kamila, you're going to have to get on them about that. It seems like maybe fall, maybe December 31st sometime. But anyway, so Josh was there in the parks. But other Tiana news is we officially, I guess, have a swamp. They flooded this thing, so it looks more like a swamp now. It's the Brier Patch has been turned into a swamp. I didn't expect it to be quite like this with the water, but I guess that's the purpose, right? Is to make it look more like a swamp. But
it's not a swamp; it's a bayou.
No, it's a swamp. It says so in the headline. You didn't read the headline? It says swamp.
They've got the cypress knees that you see like actually in the bayou in Louisiana. They don't quite have enough, but maybe there'll be more. But it's like really cool to see that kind of detail put in. I was really excited to see because it's hard for me to imagine what the front of this was going to look like. And now I can see it. I'm really excited. And I went back to like pictures when I was like in Bow Bridge and visiting there of like what the cypress scenes look like, and it's like, all right, we're getting somewhere.
Well, I think that what they need to do then is isolate all of like the Frontierland stuff outside of it so that we don't see that when we're looking into the bayou, and then we'll have it made. But I wasn't expecting it to be the flooded, which again, I don't know why. It's a bayou, it should be, right? But I don't know that I was expecting the flooded part of it because it's, we have the flume, and the flume used to exist, and then outside of the flume was where the Brier Patch was and the grass and all that. So I was surprised to see that happen. So anyway, I'm excited that it's moving forward. That's a cool thing. Shannon, are you ready? Are you going to plan your trip? You good?
No, I'm wondering, do you think that they are going to have boarding groups? That's one question I have about this. Yeah,
bayou boarding groups. Yes. I
mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I think they will. I think they will because that's what we've seen. I don't know why they would break that pattern. I know that there was a survey that went out in the past couple of days where they're trying to figure out about do people hate virtual queue enough to remove it from Tron. It's been on Guardians for way longer than we expected. I mean, we knew it was going to be a big deal on Rise. We originally thought that the land itself was going to take virtual queue for a long time, which didn't really happen. to get into Galaxy's Edge, but then Rise was on virtual queue forever, and then they moved on to do Ratatouille was for a little while, and then when Guardians showed up, Ratatouille went to standby line. So we still have two, we still have Guardians, and we still have Tron. I think that it will probably mean that Tron would come off and that Tiana would go on, would be my guess. Now, the Magic Kingdom's the only park that I know of that has two paid Lightning Lane levels with the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron. I wonder if when they add Tiana, if they would remove it kind of like they did for Ratatouille, or if we'll have 3 paid Lightning Lane levels. And then in that, because Splash Mountain used to be included in the Genie Plus offerings, but Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I'm sure, will be, they'll be like, well, that was Splash Mountain. That closed. Now, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, that is an e-ticket attraction that deserves $25 per person to ride this attraction if you want to ride it today. I don't know. We'll see. Let's move on to the next thing, the Haunted Mansion. Kamila, are you familiar with the Haunted Mansion?
A little bit.
Okay. They're demolishing your beloved California Haunted Mansion queue out here. They've got cranes, and it seems almost like sacrilege to me. This thing has existed for so long. I get what they're going for in doing it, and obviously it's going to be closed for a while, and they've got some loads of brick ready to do things. They've pushed these walls out to the point where you basically have to swim across the rivers of America to get to Galaxy's Edge when you walk in. But when it's all said and done, we're going to have a nice big interactive queue, or at least a gardens attached to it, so that things don't back up into around the train station the way they are now. And there will be a gift shop, which seems like a crazy thing to do. I think we talked about this, maybe even you were on that episode where we talked about how many things are closed right now at Disneyland. And now not only is the Haunted Mansion closed, but the walkway is basically closed because of that wall being out there. And then right next to it, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is opening sometime before 12 o'clock on December 31st. So are you upset about some of these, like the Pet Cemetery and these things being pulled out, or are you relieved that they're opening up this area?
I mean, I definitely think there was a lot of opportunity for improvement. The biggest thing I remember about the Haunted Mansion queue always is it was so tight, and it's really just rope that's kind of wrapping around and trying to guide the line. So it was a terrible queue. And so, if they're going to close it, then they might as well take advantage of the time to make it better. But I just can't imagine how much of a nightmare that whole area is. It's already a very high traffic area that feels very small. And so I can only imagine that just feels worse. But hopefully before we know it, we'll look up and it'll all be done and we'll love it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a positive spin on it. That works. Let me make sure that, let's see. Allison, again, here's the thing that I think of when I think of this is that, first of all, it doesn't seem like you needed to close the Haunted Mansion to make this happen, especially when an e-ticket like Splash/Tiana's is down. But the second thing is that they went to all that trouble and effort to do the virtual or the interactive queue at Florida. I don't remember the last time I saw it because I feel like we usually bypass it.
Yeah, same. But this... I'm just happy they're getting a new queue in Disneyland. That is maybe the worst queue in any domestic park of any attraction. So I am willing to put up, and I don't go as often as Kamila does because I'm not as close to Disneyland, but I'm willing to put up with virtually any inconvenience for that to change. And I don't know how they're going to, there's just not enough space, I think, to make it work, but I hope they've come up with some engineering marvel and it's going to be great and it'll free up space and people will have space to walk and breathe. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the California Food and Wine Festival, because California also has a food and wine festival. It happens in the spring, I guess for some strange reason, I don't know, so that maybe you could hit the one in the spring in California and in fall in Epcot. But it takes place at Disney California Adventure. It opened up last Friday, March 1st, and you can buy a sip and savor pass to get into the Food and Wine Festival. Kamila, have you been to the California Food and Wine Festival, first of all? And secondly, do you see a value to buying the sip and savor pass?
Yeah, so I haven't been, mostly because I just can't do Disneyland during the spring break season. But I do think that's why lately they've been doing it during this time frame, is just a way to kind of break up the spring break crowds, give you something else to do. I do like the sip and savor passes. I think if you use them right, you can save money using them. It's kind of like the dining plan, but for these festivals. And I think they're a good deal. You kind of just pay up front, don't think about it. And, if you are going to be going multiple days, you can continue to use it and just, makes it a little bit easier. So I do like all of it. I think this is a really cute festival. I think Disneyland does food really, or, Disneyland DCA do food really well. And I just am loving the avocado Mickey mug. That is so cute. So, this is one of those I would like to go, but not enough to deal with spring break crowds.
Yeah, no, I get that. That is cute. It's avocado time. It's avocado time. That's so wonderful. I love that. There's some of this merch I think is pretty cool. Now, one of the things about the California Food and Wine Festival is I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like that the food's a little bit more adventurous than what we see in Florida. And then it's sometimes stupid adventurous, like we've talked about with the peanut butter and jelly mac and cheese with the Pop Rocks in it. But the merch, I think they only kind of do one line of merch, which is interesting. They don't do as much merch. And I don't know if that's because it's a locals park and they just, people don't buy as much of the festival style merch as everybody else does in Florida. But I like this patchwork thing that they're doing here too, with this Loungefly backpack is one of the examples. But they have a glass like this and a shirt like this that has the avocado time on it, but it also has a couple other patches that are neat to have on there. So I think it's kind of neat. Shannon, would you go out there for California Food and Wine Festival?
You know what? I was just thinking that I would love to one day, but now Kamila just dissuaded me because
Womp womp. We'll always remember this is the day when Kamila killed your dreams.
No,
you know what? You know what keeps me from going back to wanting to go back to Disneyland? I've been there twice, and both times it was overwhelmingly crowded, and I just feel like that's a consequence of how small those parks are. So now knowing that this festival is during a crazy time, you know what? Maybe I'll find another time to go.
Okay.
Late August.
Okay.
What's happening? I was gonna say, what's happening in late August? Nothing, I guess, right?
The parks are empty. People are back in school.
Okay. So let's move on to talk a little bit about some character dining updates that happened this week. One of them was about Mickey's, the Chef Mickey's, the breakfast has been updated with croissants, beignets, I'm going to say that wrong. I should be able to say it right because I'm an adult, but and plant-based. Yeah, okay. All right. I was going to pronounce the L, so there you go. And plant-based hash. So everybody loves a good plant-based hash. I do think when we talked about this before, the croissant beignets were definitely something that I was like, that sounds like a good idea. But also 1900 Park Fair is finally going to be opening soon and has Tiana's Gumbo and more menu items that have been added, including this Wish drink, these cool cupcakes. And then we also know that Tiana's going to show up at this one in her Bayou Adventure outfit. So this will be, I don't know if this will be the only place you'll be able to get her, take her picture in that outfit, but she'll definitely be at the 1900 Park Fair meal when that one opens up, which is pretty exciting. And I could hear the audible gasp from Shannon on this one. So tell me your thoughts, feelings, bare your soul about this one.
I'm a little nervous about those menu changes at Chef Mickey's because I don't know if Tiana's going to come waltzing out in her pantsuit that I hate so much. Why? I hate that. I hate that they put her in 1900 Park Fair. And fine, if you're going to put her there, then sure, make the food make sense. You put gumbo. I am getting nervous that the beignets and the andouille sausage is like they're trying to sneak in Tiana now to Chef Mickey's.
She's everywhere.
I love
mean,
Tiana. Don't get me wrong. I do. I love The Princess and the Frog. I love that movie. But I mean, we need to stick with theming.
Okay, all right, and I don't know if either. I'm gonna guess that Allison, that character dining is probably not your go-to move unless you have to take your daughter. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you're correct. But when I go with my daughter, it is almost every meal. Like, it's lunch and dinner. Like, so much that by the end she's like, "Oh man, I'm really tired of entertaining all these characters. This is exhausting." We tend to overdo it, and we did Chef Mickey's the last trip. 1900 has not been open, so that's one of the few she hasn't been to. But she's been to pretty much everything else at least once, and many more than once. But I just have a question really for the panel, and are beignets the new churros in Walt Disney World? Because they are doing it for everything. They did it for Black History Month. They did it for Women's History Month. They're putting it on the menu various places. Like, yeah, they're good. Or I guess they're crowd pleasing. And they keep trying to like do different versions of them. Like, let's dip them in chocolate. Let's have like some kind of like fruity sauce or something. And this time we're like going to cross them with croissants, which actually very good idea. I kind of want that kind. But like they just seem to be popping up everywhere. And I hope it's not indicative of having like Mickey and his pals and then Tiana in that cosplaying as the Society of Adventurers, because that's not what I want in that restaurant.
I got to tell you before we move on from that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm gonna be getting ready to wave my napkin, all excited for the Fab Five to come out, and here comes Tiana in the pantsuit.
Tiana and her Bayou pantsuit. Wow. Yeah, and we're going to talk about Fantasy Springs in a second here. So, which we all wish that they would retell the story of Princess and the Frog rather than whatever they're doing. But again, as Kamila and I always say, let's just wait and see what happens. That's going to be great. Yay. Yeah, the beignets, though, I will say that I used to love. That was my favorite part of going to Disneyland, was going to the Mint Julep bar and getting some beignets, and they're fresh and hot, and that's how you want them because they don't keep. That's the only drawback I would think that you would have. Like Mickey Premium bars, you can have boxes of them tripping over them, but with a beignet, you have to make it, and you pretty much want to eat it right there on the spot. So I'm glad that they exist in the parks at Florida now, at that little stand across from Tiana's Bayou Adventures. New home, but at the same time, if I wanted them before, I would have to go over to Port Orleans French Quarter to get them, and so I like that they exist. But you don't need them everywhere. You just need them. Need just one spot in the park where I can go find them, and I'm good. Let's talk about I'm not going to talk about St. Patrick's Day because I want to go over real quick, but I do want to show that they have St. Patrick's Day offerings not only at Disneyland but at Disney World. Some of the stuff looks pretty good here. With the cupcakes and things. So they do have offerings. We talked about them adding new offerings to the parks for Valentine's Day, for Women's History Month, and things like that. St. Patrick's Day, I think that's a good one. A lot of green, you just need to invest in a lot of green dye, put it in cupcakes and drinks and anything else, and you're good to go. But let's talk a little bit about DreamWorks Land that is coming to Universal. I know we don't usually talk about Universal on here, but I just wanted to get a kind of a thought from the panel on this. So we have Trolls, Kung Fu Panda, and Shrek are going to be there, and they made some announcements about the land, including, we already knew this, that the Woody Woodpecker Nut House coaster is turning into this Trolls coaster. This is the part that I find interesting, is that for Kung Fu Panda, it looks like they're retheming the existing stuff that was happening for Curious George. I expected them to tear this down and start over again, but it kind of looks the same as what they were going to have before for Curious George. And then, of course, Shrek is going to have a meet and greet tree trunk, which apparently replaces all of Five-O's Playland as a meet and greet tree trunk. Is this enough to get anybody on this panel excited? Let me start with Kamila. Is this enough to get you to go to DreamWorks Land? Is it a cool upgrade, or what's happening?
I mean, I definitely think this is for families with young children. And I feel like they're always looking for unique activities and things to do. So DreamWorks Land should give them that. But for me personally, no. No, you will not see me here. Even when it's open, even if it was free, I probably still would be like, nah. But I
Okay.
do like the IP that they selected. I will say that. Like, I think it'll be really fun to have Kung Fu Panda. I think that's long overdue. Such a good franchise and series. Shrek, I get, and then Trolls, I get. None of these are like what I find entertaining, but love this for families.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Is Fantasy Springs, and this is like Tokyo gets all the cool stuff. We're just going to say that. Like, I didn't lead with this because I know Tom is going to talk about it all over the place, and that's fine because it looks freaking amazing. But a lot of the stuff that I thought I knew about this land that is being added to Tokyo Disney Sea is so much better. It's so much better than I thought it was going to be, and now I'm devastated that I won't get to be there all the time. For those of you who don't know, Fantasy Springs is coming in June to Tokyo Disney Sea. It's being added as a new land with lands within it. It's going to have Tangled and Peter Pan and Frozen, and it just looks amazing. Some of the stuff that's going to be there is a dark ride for Tangled, which I would love. And when they describe what it's going to be, it sounds freaking amazing, including some kind of a finale with the lanterns, which is awesome. There's going to be a Snuggly Duckling restaurant. Awesome. More than just the Tangled restrooms. Like, that's fantastic. Finally, Tangled gets some good IP, good representation in the park. The Peter Pan one, which we thought was going to be more like a Flight of Passage situation, which I thought sounded perfect. To have that kind of we're flying through Neverland sort of a thing would have been awesome. It sounds like it's going to be more along the lines of the Back to the Future / Simpsons attraction, where they put you in a car and lift you up, and then you're flying through Neverland in a car, just like in the movie. But then also there is a Tinkerbell Land where you ride through outdoors in what are 4 different show scenes for the different seasons, which I wonder if that had been kind of on the table for Imagineering when they were planning the Pixie Hollow section of Magic Kingdom that never happened, because it looked really cool what they're doing there. And Tom and I were on the same wavelength. I was watching what he was talking about with it, and it was the choo-choo train, the Heimlich's choo-choo train that they used to have in Disney California Adventure in Bugs Land. It feels a lot like that, but like over the top with theming. And then there's going to be like a Pirates, a place to eat, which is going to include roast beef popcorn. So, and then, the Frozen Land we've learned is going to be a completely different attraction, which again, like we talked about with Princess and the Frog, it's going to retell the Frozen story. Not, we've already experienced Frozen, let's go meet Elsa and the gang after the fact, but it's going to go through the movie and have Hans in there and just be like a retelling of the story. So that's the layout. We've learned so much already. There's so much more to learn before the June 6th opening. I'm shocked, Shannon, that none of this got out before now, because I feel like we would, like usually with Disney, they've told us about what color the floor is going to be and all that kind of stuff. And I know this is happening in Tokyo, but when you saw this stuff, what were you most excited about?
I wasn't excited at all. I was upset that we're not getting it here. I don't even want to look. I don't want to look. I don't read about it because I know that I'm probably not going to be able to see it. So, really cool. And I hope this inspires them to do this in the U.S. parks in some way, shape, or form. This is, I feel like, what we're craving. Not just one little land or one little, attraction. I want a whole over-the-top thing with these specific IPs. I love Tangled, Frozen, and Peter Pan is just a classic that I think is timeless. So I'm upset.
You just sit there and be sad. That's fine. You can just feel your feelings. That's fine.
They can keep the popcorn though.
Yeah. Kamila, thoughts? Are you ready to plan a trip? Because I need one. I need one right now.
I mean, it's really exciting. And my first thought was like, do they just have endless money? Like, what is their financing
Right?
situation, and why is it so different than ours? Um, but no, I mean, at the same time, like just knowing how well they do things out there, like you want to see them bring these different areas to life. Like I can only imagine what a Tangled Dark ride done correctly by the good people at Tokyo Disney, and I know there might be some U.S. based Imagineers a part of it as well, but it just seems like they don't cut corners. And so, it'll be really, really interesting to see, how they bring some of this to life. And I can only imagine that it will be really well done, which is just going to, be even more glaring for us here on the US side, especially given what other parks are up to nearby. So just love this for Tokyo Disney, though.
Love this journey for you, Tokyo Disney. Yes, exactly. Here's a look at that Tinkerbell attraction I was talking about. So you can see the little Tinkerbell cars going through the different
Aw.
seasons. And apparently the queue is also absolutely amazing. But I don't know, again, that I knew that everything was on this scale because I knew the Peter Pan ride existed. I didn't realize that the Tinkerbell one did. And then the Tangled and the Frozen, and then each of them having their own food places, like each of them has their own within the same land, basically. Like this is all one place in Tokyo Disney Sea. So, Allison, what's the thing that you look at here and you go, man, I need to go to Tokyo and see that immediately?
No, it's not the one thing. It's the sum of the parts. This is like the, what was it, 2012, 2013 Fantasyland expansion, but like the blue sky version of it. Like, oh, we're gonna sit in a room and be like, what are all the things we could do? And then we're gonna whittle it down to bathrooms and whatever. They did, there's a lot of good stuff there, but like, I mean, that's sort of what happened. They actually do it. And it's like amazing that, I think you're right, Rob. Amazing that we didn't like real. I'm like, wait, this is in 3 months. How do we not know all of these details now? But yeah, I'm just jealous. My daughter is 5, and we watch a lot of ride videos at various parks, and she sort of like knows the difference between stuff. And she looked at me and was like, "Why does Tokyo get all the good rides?"
Even the 5-year-olds know that this isn't fair. Okay, all right, great.
From the TV or from like looking on my phone, she can tell it like it's like the level of care is so much better there. So
Yep.
yeah, it's like, yeah, I can't wait to actually get to bring her. I was gonna do it this year, but I'm gonna wait a couple of years until she's less afraid of rides, and then
Yep.
we'll go.
Agree. All of this looks amazing. I can't believe all the stuff we didn't know yet, and then everything they've shown us already looks amazing, and I can't wait. And again, it's amazing they haven't shown us what the inside of the Frozen attraction looks like, or just with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, how many one little pieces have we seen of Tiana's Bayou Adventure? Here's her pantsuit. Here's her animatronic. Here's the mural. Here's the floor of the queue. And we've seen all of this to get excited about something that's an overlay. And here's an entire land that they've been so hush hush about. And I love that we're finding out about it now. And I'm jealous about all the things that are there. Shannon, tell me you're ready. Are you ready? You weren't ready. You weren't ready.
I wasn't
we have
ready.
Another super chat
I was not ready.
from Turdy. It says, "I've got a dream to visit the Snuggly Duckling in Tokyo Disney." Yes, and everybody sing in your head so we don't get demonetized this song. But thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. One last thing before we close out the night, just because this was such a good story, and we wanted to talk about it before we went on, because sometimes some of the things we have to say aren't very positive. This is nothing but positive. That you can leave a cast member a compliment when a cast member has done something to add to your magic, to add to your trip, to go above and beyond. Please, there's a place in the app to do this, to compliment a cast member, and you should do that, because the cast members, we have these shirts that we made. The cast members are the magic. I believe that. And this is a great example of it. This is an article we have on our website. It says, "Meet the world's most complimented cast member," and this is Willie Jackson, who is, for the past, I think, 6 years at least, has been a PhotoPass photographer on on Sunset Boulevard, and has had with over 1,000 cast member compliments in the last year alone, has the honor of to be the most complimented cast member in and in celebration of World Compliment Day on March 1st. They talked about that. So Allison, this is the kind of these are the magic makers. This is what like makes that Disney difference, right?
This guy is getting at least 3 compliments a day, probably more, to get to 1,000 in a year. It's just, I'm going to like look for him. I think also these PhotoPass, there's such a spectrum of quality with PhotoPass photographers. Like some of them, it's like point and shoot and they're barely interacting with you. And others like help you and your family like get into different poses and like add the magical elements. And like, a good one can really make or break like a trip memory. We had a great one at Animal Kingdom, and like I blew up the photo and framed it and became what I gave my dad for Christmas. So he has a picture of me and him and his granddaughter together. And now I'm like, I need to search out this guy. Like I can't imagine he's doing every day to have at least 3 people go out of their way. And most people don't even know you can do this. So like they're probably like, this guy was so unbelievable. We'll have to go to guest services to find out, how can I tell somebody about him? Like that's how good this guy is. It's just like the best story. It's so much better than when we have to talk about people doing stupid things in the parks. This makes me so happy.
Yep. Allison was like, can we just talk about one like very big positive rather than that came from the parks? So tune in next week for it came from the parks. But I, again, this guy was a cast member for 14 years. I don't know what he did before the PhotoPass. Has been PhotoPass for the past 6, but man, he is loaded for bear. Look at this rigging he's got all over him. He's got the gloves. He is like ready to go. Like this is the guy that looks like he knows what he's doing when it comes to that. Kamila, thoughts on this one?
Just really lovely to see like them recognizing cast members like this who go above and beyond and who seem to be so beloved by guests. So I actually saw I think it was like one of the Disney parks TikToks with him in it, and it was so cute and sweet, and like he just seems like such a friendly face. So absolutely, I agree. Like I don't even usually try to do PhotoPass, but if I'm gonna keep an eye out for him and Hollywood Studios, and just so awesome to see. Yeah.
No, and again, Allison said the same thing, and I had the same thought too. It's like, man, next time I go, I want to find this guy. Although the best PhotoPass person I ever had was also down on this street, and the picture she took is like my profile on all of my socials, because I was like, wow, how did you do that with this? Like, I don't know, but it looks good. So, Shannon, before we go to close out with you, I need you just one more time. We got one more, okay, if you have it in you.
Okay, I do.
Man, see, that is worth all of it right there. We have one more super chat from CK Barry. If Disney took note that some people are only Disney and others are only Universal, but that a large portion of us enjoy both, they might worry more about split stays going Universal's way. Not wrong. I mean, that is one of those things where we look at it as Disney is a superior park, and then Universal kind of had copied a lot of what they were doing beforehand, but then things like Wizarding World of Harry Potter came along, and like the immersion that they have there is great, and they've upped their game and maintenance and things like that. So I definitely think that they're catching up, and Disney needs to make sure to raise that bar, because they are charging in a lot of cases more money for things. But thank you again for that super chat. We appreciate it. Shannon, final thoughts on Willie?
Oh no, what a wholesome story. Good on Willie and good on Disney for recognizing him. We go out of our way to give these cast compliments, and sometimes, I think we probably have the thought, like, I hope this really does get back to the person. So I love it, love to see it, and I think it encourages us all to go out and give those cast compliments when we come across great cast members.
Yep, absolutely. Please do. Thank you guys so much for being on the panel tonight. We appreciate it. Before you go, again, just a reminder, we have Deep in the Plus. It comes on Wednesday nights. We had That Darn Cat last Wednesday night. If you missed that one, you can catch it at deepintheplus.com. This Wednesday will be Patrick and I will be doing Onward for its 4-year anniversary, and then he'll be back for his typical St. Patrick's Day with Patrick show, but this time we're doing You Lucky Dog, mostly because we're running out of things that have to do with St. Patrick's Day or luck. And then on March 20th, we'll be doing Home on the Range, which is 20 years old, and I bet there are a bunch of people who have never, ever seen that one. So that's what's coming up if you want to do some homework. Why are you laughing, Shannon?
Yeah, because I've definitely never seen it.
Yep, exactly. It's one of Disney's like 61 full-length animated features, and you've never seen it. Shame on you. I can't believe it. Well, you should watch it and then come hang out in Deep in the Plus. And a special shout out to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS, the WDWNT Interglobe Society. Thank you guys for being part of our Patreon family. If you want more information about how to be involved with the WIGS, go to patreon.com/WDWNT. So thank you guys for being with us in ParksCenter. We'll be with you again next Sunday night for another episode, 9 p.m. Please join us. Thank you guys on the panel for being here. If you are a WIGS member, we do have a quick post show after this, so hang tight and have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Dun, 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 dun.
Bum, 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 bum.
Beautiful as always. I mean, is there a great